weird kink if that was the case. I wanted it to be like in a tighter little bow. It is nicely tied up. I just wanted a nicer bow. I'm talking gibberish probably. I don't think it was the best written book in the world. She has good characters, like it's the characters you're there to read about. So who knows? Who knows really? Hello and welcome back to another wrap up. Today I'm going to be doing my November and December wrap up because I read only 2 books in November and I think 5 books in December, which was better than November. So I thought I'd just combine them both into one video and have a November-December wrap up ready, fresh to start the new year. Tomorrow is the 31st today. Crazy, it's the end of 2021, I'm gonna start 2022. It's gonna be a great year for reading anyway. The last book I discussed that I read on the channel was Empire of the Vampire, when I did my kind of like I've been gone for months and months wrap up, which only had like 3 books in it because I didn't read that time. So the next book that I read was actually in November as well, and that was Medusa by Jessie Burton. I'm currently home for the new year, so I don't actually have any of these books with me. I will be putting pictures of this one, especially for this book, because it is gorgeous. It's like very small, I think it's like less than 200 pages. It's spread out a little bit like the Harry Potter illustrated editions, if you've ever seen those, a much smaller version of it though. And it is literally just, it's gorgeous. It's illustrated by Olivia Lomanek-Gill. She's got an Instagram account, so definitely check that out. I'll probably put it below if I remember. I don't always remember, but hopefully I will. I'll try and find some pictures of my favourite ones as well. But this is a Medusa retelling. It's very short and crisp. I gave it 4 stars. It's super easy to read. It's just a beautiful and lovely book. And if you like retellings, definitely give it a go. It is written by Jessie Burton, who wrote The Miniaturist. I think she's got another book coming out sometime next year as well. I can't remember what that is though. She's actually written quite a lot of books actually that I didn't realise, but there you go. And Jessie Burton does have good writing. I don't know if I like the twist. I don't know, there was some... Obviously, so the story of Medusa is obviously that she attracts the attention of Poseidon and rejects him. He gets very angry at this and decides to take her anyway, and he does this in Athena's temple. And because Athena is a god and doesn't seem to have rational thoughts, she decides to punish Medusa by turning her kind of most vain aspect, or the thing that she kind of takes most pride in, aka her hair, into snakes. And then Medusa kind of torments people afterwards, or that's kind of like the generalised myth that has kind of dominated retellings or the perception of Medusa. Jessie Burton's Medusa is a little bit different. She obviously has the same beginning and kind of pulls out the unfair nature of it, how it wasn't Medusa's fault, like she didn't do anything really to warrant the wrath of both these gods, and also brings her sisters into it, and instead of being this kind of wrathful, angry woman, she's actually quite a scared, lonely girl who has hidden away on an island and never sees anybody because she's too scared of what they will think of her, with her head full of snakes. And then one day this boy turns up on her island and they speak through like opposite sides of a wall and they get to know each other. It is Perseus, and I won't say how that unravels. I'm not sure if I liked how it unraveled, and it was quite an abrupt ending. It's definitely different to most of the myths I've read of it. I do want to now go back and read like her story in Metamorphosis and different bits where she is in kind of the original mythology that we've got, just to kind of see how the retelling is. I haven't done that, but I would like to do that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's very short and sweet and easy, and I think it would have been quite nice to have it as a longer story, but with the pictures and everything, it was just a very enjoyable read. I read it in like 24 hours or 2 nights, so would recommend. The next book I read is one that is the second in a series, and I partly read it, partly listened to it on audiobook because I was just struggling to find time to read, so I was listening to it whilst doing other things, like walking to work and stuff. But that is Royal Assassin, which is the second book in the Farseer trilogy, and I did really enjoy it. I gave it another 4 stars. I kind of lost momentum with it a little bit in the way, which I think is kind of just how I'm getting along with Robin Hobb's writing. I found the same thing with the first book. I really love her characters and her storyline and the way the plot kind of is paced. However, it's just I don't necessarily mesh with it. I think it's quite slow at paces, and then a lot of things will happen and then it will really slow down again. So I think it's just a little bit too Constantine-y. Is that a word? I don't know. It just seems too many long stretches before all the things happen, a bit too condensed. But I did really enjoy it and I want to continue on with this series. I'm just not super drawn into it that I want to read the series straight away, which is I wish I was, The audiobook though is really good. I like the audiobook narrator, and I'm very picky with narrators and audiobooks. They will put me off reading an audiobook if I don't like the voice. So I really enjoyed the audiobook. I think I was reading it on Scribd, so that's like a subscription, and it's all on there. I don't know if the whole series is on there, but I would recommend it. Yeah, it was just nice to be back with these characters. If you haven't heard of it, it's quite a well-known series, fantasy series especially. It is quite a expansive world where Rob and Hobb has multiple series set within this world, and multiple trilogies, I think, about the same characters but like spread apart, I don't know. The first trilogy, with the Farseer trilogy, follows Fitz, who is the bastard child of one of the prince in line for the throne. However, by the time he gets to the palace, when he's a little bit older, or like a young boy basically, his father has abdicated the throne when he discovers he's a thing, and then actually died. So he is now just like a bastard child who lives in the throne, and because he's a bastard child but still related to the royalty, the prince or the king can use him as a way of like a middle ground where he can go to places like other royal courts, but he won't be acknowledged as a member of royalty, so he can be an assassin, which is why it's called a royal assassin. The second one anyway. But yeah, it's very good. It is very exciting and very expansive, and there's a lot going on. It's quite a chunk, like the jump from the first book to the second book is quite big, like size wise. So it was much more expansive, and like a lot more happened, I suppose. And I am excited to finish the trilogy and see what the next trilogy is about. So we'll see how that goes. But I did give it 4 stars, and I would recommend delving into that series because she has good characters. Like, it's the characters you're there to read about, and the plot is good. It's very unknown because a lot of the characters don't really know what's going on either. I find like the big evil entity that's the main villain is called the Red Ships, and no one has a clue what's going on with them either, and that's the same with the first and second book. Like, there's been very little development with that in the second book. So at the moment I'm there for the characters because the plot is very slow moving. Not a lot has happened, although I feel like a lot did happen, but I just can't remember. I think a lot of little things happened, but the main kind of plot points didn't progress very much. Although we're in a very different position at the end of this book than we were at the beginning. So who knows? Who knows, really? I'm talking gibberish, probably. So those are the 2 books I read in November. We're now on to December reads, which I picked up a little bit of a quicker one. I read my first-ish, I think. I don't think I read very many. One of my first crime books, and I have to say I'm not a fan of this one in particular. I will give other ones a go, but this one was just a little bit, it wasn't great. I've still given it 3 stars. It's a very low 3 stars because I did read it in 2 days because it was like I wanted to get through it. It was very easy, very consumable, like just such an easy read. But it is This Sanatorium by Sarah Pearse. It is the first book, I think, well, it's going to be a couple books. But it's about a detective who's struggling from PTSD from a previous case that she's had. She hasn't been at work for a year. Because the murder dude tried to drown her, and she kind of hasn't been able to recover from that, and she's also got a lot of trauma from her childhood when her brother died, and she's going to this big snowy mountain where there is a new hotel that has been remodelled from an old sanatorium, which is a hospital where people with, I think, tuberculosis, were specifically where people there went to heal or try and get medical help. Because a lot of people believe that the help for that was just like fresh air. She gets there and it's her brother's engagement, that's why she's visiting there, and she hasn't seen him in years, and there's a bit of tension there. She doesn't really trust him because she thinks that he did something wrong with the other brother. And then people start going missing, his fiancée goes missing, and then this other woman turns up dead with like a sanatorium kind of TB mask, like protector mask on, drowned at the bottom of a pool. Just, I don't think it was the best written book in the world, because I don't know how it is with murder mysteries, but like if I walked into a pool room where there was a body with this weird mask on, hands tied behind her back, and was dead, I would think murder straight away. But no, it took her about 3 pages to get to that point, and I was like, you're a detective, surely. It wasn't until she like saw that there was some sand at the bottom, or like a sandbag at the bottom, that she thought, oh yeah, she's purposely been drowned now. That was like 3 pages into after discovering the body. I was just like, would you not have known? Would you not have known already? Like straight away? Did the mask and the hands not give it away? no. Weird kink if that was the case. I don't know, it just wasn't very believable in my thought. But maybe if you like murder mysteries, it's not even a murder mystery, detective novels, you'd have enjoyed it. So I still give it 3 stars. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. So yes, Sanatorium. If it's your thing, it's your thing. If it's not your thing, I wouldn't recommend. The next book I read is one that I have been meaning to read for a very long time, and it's actually on my 2022 TBR, so I'm already one ahead. But that is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. This is obviously a retelling. She is the daughter of Minos and Pasiphae, I don't know how you say her name, who is the daughter of Helios and the sister of Circe. And she is kind of obviously the sister to the Minotaur, because the Minotaur is born from Pasiphae, who is kind of bewitched by the gods to fall in love with this amazing bull sent by the gods, because I think Minos has insulted them in some way, and to do that they humiliate Pasiphae by falling in love with this bull. She gets Daedalus to construct a female bull that Pasiphae can go inside and then consort with the bull, and therefore the Minotaur is born. And so obviously that's how the story of the Minotaur comes about, and that's all in Ariadne as well. And then she falls in love with Theseus, who is come from Athens because to feed, or I don't know, like impose his ruling over Athens, Minos has decreed that I think 12 or 13 of their children must be sacrificed to the Minotaur every year. Theseus comes along because he is the prince of Athens and decides that enough is enough, and he will slay the Minotaur when he goes in as a sacrifice. Ariadne falls in love with him. It doesn't really go to plan, and she ends up being kind of a woman on an island abandoned by Theseus, and she kind of has to live her life on this island, and she in turn falls in love with another god and lives a life that is also not so great, but she is done dirty. It is quite a sad story. It's quite a calm story. Like, I did go through waves of really enjoying it, really liking the writing style and action that was happening, and then it kind of petered out and kind of went in very like, I'm enjoying this, I'm not enjoying this, I'm enjoying this, I'm really not enjoying this. So you also get a little bit in with her sister, who ends up marrying Theseus, and her life is also very tragic. Yeah, it's a very sad story actually. Not very heartwarming. There are elements of heartwarmingness, but it's not a cheery read, I wouldn't say, if you were after that. But it's not devastating either. Like, it's not the worst. Like, you're not gonna cry. I didn't anyway. Maybe you would. I don't know. So yeah, I ended up giving that another 4 stars. So I actually did enjoy it. She's got another book coming out about Electra, which I'm really excited about next year, because that's a story I'm much more interested in. I have a lot more knowledge on it and kind of insight into it, because I studied quite a bit of it at uni, so I'm excited for that one. And I enjoyed this enough that I am willing to read more of Jennifer Saint. So the next book I read is actually a middle grade book. So it is The Hatmakers by Tamsin Merchant, and it was I really enjoyed this. I give this 5 stars. It is such a fun book, and Cordelia, the main character, is just such a good little main character. I really enjoyed her kind of like gumption and ambition and determination and just childish innocence, but that actually we all need a little bit more in our lives, of her kind of just like not letting all these like many negative and impossible things get in her way, and she's just gonna do it anyway. And I just loved it. It was great. It follows Cordelia, who's a girl who lives with her family in this hat shop. Her family are all hat makers, but they're magical hat makers. There's only one hat makers in the whole of England, and it's them, and they're employed by the king. And there's shoemakers and trouser makers, I don't know, I can't remember the other ones. There's a hat maker, there's a version of a hat maker basically for every item of clothing, but they're all enemies, and there's been a big fallout with all the hat makers. And at the beginning, the first chapter, Cordelia wakes up and her father is lost at sea. He travels to distant lands to discover the magic ingredients that go into these hats, that when you put them on, they're designed for a certain thing, like to make you sleep better, to make you more concentratingness, to help intelligence, that kind of thing. Like they're curated to aid you in whatever you want and make you more confident, that kind of thing. So her dad searches for these things, but he's been lost at sea. Everyone's obviously really upset by this, but Cordelia believes that he is still alive and she will find him. So that is her kind of trajectory. But then Also, there's like problems going on with the king. He's gone a bit crazy and they need help like with all these kind of assassinations, and it's just a lot of fun, a lot going on, a lot of excitement, and just like it's super heartwarming and lovely, and I would highly recommend The Hatmakers. It was gorgeous, a lovely book. And the last book that I read, I literally just finished it this morning, so just on the cusp of 2021, and that is Midnight in Everwood by M.A. Kuzniar. This is a Nutcracker retelling. I meant to read it over Christmas obviously, but I didn't get a chance, so I started it I think Boxing Day. I wish I'd read the original Nutcracker before. I haven't had a chance to read it. I thought I knew the storyline from the like cartoon, but I feel like the cartoon animation is also an exaggeration, or like definitely different to the original. If I don't know which one is closest to it. It was nice read. Some little bits annoyed me. It kind of felt a little bit like the author was trying to make it sound really clever by putting in all these references to like Greek mythology, to like history and that kind of thing. And I don't necessarily think it was needed. It just made the main character come off as really pompous and like a bit full of herself. I think if I was to like have my degree hat on and was second guess like looking into all these references, I don't think he would have added much to the story at that point. Like it wasn't like referring to this certain Greek tale reflected anything that was actually going on within the passage. And then a lot of references were also explained. So like when she put the red cap on, instead of just like being like, oh yeah, that's kind of a nod to the French Revolution and like freedom, it was explained quite explicitly like, oh yes, she puts the red hat on because she knows that this is a symbol to when she studied history and the French did it. Like it was kind of like that, and it's just like it wasn't needed. Like I don't need to know that she studied history and that's why she's put the red cap on. Maybe that's me just being a bit critical, but there was a lot of that in it and I just thought could have just been left. But it was a really fun story. It follows a girl, Marietta, who is in love with ballet. It's set in the early 1900s, so it's quite a constrictive society, and her father says she's no longer allowed to do ballet and she must marry. The person that he chooses, or like the consort that kind of wants to marry her, is Drosselmeyer, who is this toy maker, and he manages to sweep them all off their feet, but then she gets bad vibes from him and he kind of corners her one night, Christmas Eve, just before midnight, and she ends up trying to escape him, but to do that she is transported away into this magical kingdom where everything is made out of sweets. And she dances in a ballroom and the king really likes her, so asks her to dance more, which she does, and then she discovers that the king is a bit like Drosselmeyer and a not very nice person, and she ends up his captive who is forced to dance for him every night. And there's romance, there's sugar, there's magic, there's tension, there's plot. It was quite a fun read. I gave it I think 4 stars? 3 stars. Oh, I gave it 3 stars, that's quite harsh. Oh wait, 3.5. I did give it 3.5 stars, just because I thought there was a little bit, I don't know, there was just a little something missing. But I love the magical kind of nature of the world and the story, and it has really made me want to read the original Nutcracker just to see kind of how it's been evolved from it. The ending also, like, the ending was good. Like I get the ending, I get why it was like that, and like it leaves off the intrigue, but I want to know, I wanted it to be like in a tighter little bow. Like it was kind of like a loose bow, it's all like nicely, like it is nicely tied up. I just wanted a nicer bow at the end of it. So, but that's me wanting like sugar plum fairies and everything. I want it, yeah. I want it, yeah. I'm not gonna. So yeah, I did enjoy that, and I would recommend it next Christmas because it's probably a little bit past now because it's all set on Christmas Day pretty much. So those are all the books that I read in November and December. I hope you enjoyed this little wrap up. If there's any books in there that you liked or are now interested in, or have read and hated or loved or disagree with me, whatever you like, pop them in the comments below, and I will hopefully see you in another video very soon, and Happy New Year!